Hey everyone, Eric and Nelson here once again, and thank you for tuning into my YouTube channel. Well, I am back with another one of Bill O'Reilly's novels, which is going to be Killing Kennedy, The End of Camelot. Now, Camelot, without getting too far ahead, was actually John F. Kennedy's nickname. It was actually a nickname that his family called him a lot. Whereas to opposed to the public, we all just called him JFK or Jack, but his family called him Camelot. So, sort of like a history lesson within the title, which was actually a great move by Bill O'Reilly. Um, Now, like my other book reviews, I really don't want to give too much away, but for this one, I'm going to make a little bit of an exception. I mean, I'm not going to give everything away, but there are a couple of things that I really do want to clarify. Now, if any of you hate spoilers 100%, I urge that you stop this right now. Now, I will put in the in the description box below the video, like a warning contains spoilers. So, as sort of like a double warning. So, but anyway, I do, before I get into all that, let me just say, in case you haven't seen my Killing a Lincoln review, even though I think that Bill O'Reilly is a great author, in particularly writing history, I don't agree with everything he says, but, and of course I don't I'm not the biggest fan of Fox News either, but I do like Bill O'Reilly, to a certain extent. I think he's a likable guy, but as for people like Hannity, no. Yeah. So anyway, back to the book. Now, if you guys read Killing Lincoln, you will find this one very similar to Killing Lincoln. Now, in case you haven't seen my Killing Lincoln review, I actually did sort of describe like how Bill O'Reilly writes. Now, how he writes, in particular, like a history books like these, he sort of like takes us on a tour guide, like not after the fact, like not after something happens, many years later, and then he gives us a tour, but he actually, it seems like as if we're going on the tour as the events are happening. Like he says, Abraham Lincoln now gets up in the morning, or as opposed to this book, JFK gets up in the morning, and as it's actually happening, and you really do feel like you're in there, in the same room as him. So yeah, it's actually pretty cool. Um, so and like Killing Lincoln, that's how Bill O'Reilly writes this book. Now, also, in the book, it begins sort of, like a Killing Lincoln, where it began with his second inaugural. Yeah, I can never say this word right. Inaugural address, whereas opposed to a Kennedy, it's his first and unfortunately his only one. Now, it's sort of like gets in, in this book, after his inaugural address, we sort of like cut in between scenes where we experience what JFK goes through, like his first few months as being president, where it went into the Bay of the Pigs invasion, and his struggle with the civil rights, and where he gets into conflicts with like Marilyn Monroe and Frank Sinatra, and of course, people within his administration, and where we also see the life of Lee Harvey Oswald, which, you know what, I gotta say, JFK and Lee Harvey Oswald couldn't be any more different. One was rich, one was poor, the other was very educated, the other was not. So yeah, I mean, these two, men, Kennedy and Oswald, couldn't be any more different. Now, um, so then as the book goes further and goes on, the two, Kennedy and Oswald, sort of connect, and then in the end, Os allegedly Oswald's bullet goes into Kennedy, and of course, that's what happens on November 22nd, 1963. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to disagree with Bill O'Reilly, and here's why. I don't think it was Lee Harvey Oswald alone. Now, before I get into why I think it wasn't him, let me just say that in the introduction, Bill O'Reilly says that him and his co-author Martin Dugard are not conspiracy guys, but at the same time, they're not anti-conspiracy either. Like, they do bring up some questions as to why certain things happened, or who certain people were. Well, if you want to know why I don't think so, well, I have to tell you, I can go on forever, because a lot of things that happened on that day, and of course before and after, are very debatable. Like, for an example, the fatal headshot, where his head went back into the left. Well, here is a law of physics. When someone pushes you from the front, where are you going to go? The front or the back? Well, let's watch here. See? If someone pushes you from the front of your face, your head is going to go backward. Now, let's see that again, only a little differently, where someone pushes your head or your face. Oh, so you see, I mean, if a bullet really came from the back of Kennedy's head and hit him in the back, don't you think he would have went forward? I mean, and of course, and there is also someone who had been sort of like watching Oswald, as sort of like a CIA agent. His name was George D. Mornschild, and he's sort of like, now he was a rich oil man who also was allegedly to have been a CIA agent who sort of collected information on Oswald. Now, think about it. Why would a rich man, a very healthy oil man, have any interest in Oswald, who was a poor, uneducated lunatic, And he did have George, the George D. Mornschild character had a connection with the Kennedy's wife, Jacqueline. So, a lot of things, now of course there's a lot more to it than that, but well, like I said before, it would take me forever to go into it in detail. So what I would suggest that you all do, if you want to learn more about the Kennedy assassination, yeah, read this book. Yeah, I mean, even though I disagree with it, I think you should still read it. And as a matter of fact, if you haven't read anything about the Kennedy assassination, I think this book would be a wonderful start, because this book tells you what the government told you, sort of, in the Warren Commission, where they said Oswald was the lone assassin. Well, and then of course after that you can, you know, after, if you haven't read anything on the Kennedy assassination and you read this first, afterwards, I would suggest you go out and buy or rent Oliver Stone's JFK movie. That would be a great start. And then afterwards, go to the library, get any books you can find, and do some research if you're interested. Because, even though that a lot of people say, well, Oswald killed Kennedy or he didn't, I think, it is a good learning a lesson, for everybody to sort of like do their own research, because it is a mysterious subject, So, yeah, but, even though I disagree with this book, I think it is a great book. Now, of course, before I read it, I saw Oliver Stone's movie, and I read lots of other books dealing with the Kennedy assassination. So it's I mean, I did learn a couple of new things, not about the assassination, but about certain people, like JFK himself, and right here is his brother Robert Kennedy, and here's his wife, uh, Jacqueline Bouvier. I mean, I actually did learn a couple of things about him, that I didn't know before. So, yeah, this book isn't just saying Oswald was the lone assassin. Bill O'Reilly does get into, certain people, within Kennedy's administration and other people too. Like sort of like a Lyndon Johnson too. I mean, I always thought that Lyndon Johnson hated the Kennedys. Well, he hated Bobby Kennedy, but he had some respect for Jack, or as in the Camelot, I should say. So anyway, folks, yeah, pick up the book. Whether you are pro conspiracy or anti conspiracy, pick up the book. I think it's a great read, and hopefully you will learn something. And if you haven't read anything about the Kennedy assassination, here is a good start. And if you have, well, it's a great piece of entertainment. Thank you.